In today's chilling story, we'll dive into the true crime case that shocked the world in 1982, the Tylenol Murders. A series of poisonings that killed 7 people and altered the way we think about product safety forever. What began as a seemingly isolated incident soon revealed a disturbing pattern, one that still remains unsolved to this day. The case started in suburban Chicago with a 12-year-old girl named Mary Kellerman. On the morning of September 29, 1982, Mary woke up feeling unwell. She had a sore throat and was complaining of a cold. Her parents, like any other concerned parents, gave her 2 Tylenol extra-strength capsules, hoping it would relieve her discomfort. What they didn't know was that these capsules, harmless on the surface, were far from what they seemed. Just a few hours later, Mary was dead. Mary's death, tragic and confusing, was the first of several. Adam Janis, a 27-year-old man from Arlington Heights, Illinois, also took Tylenol after experiencing a headache. He too fell victim to the poison. The situation quickly escalated when, hours after Adam's death, his brother and sister-in-law, who were visiting the home to offer their condolences, also succumbed to the same fate after taking Tylenol from the same bottle. In the span of just a few days, 4 people had died under the same mysterious circumstances, but the cause of death was still unknown. At first, investigators were stumped. What could possibly tie these deaths together? There were no clear signs of foul play. The victims had no apparent connection to each other, aside from the Tylenol pills they had consumed. But as the investigation unfolded, a chilling realization began to emerge. It wasn't the Tylenol itself that killed them. The pills had been tampered with, deliberately poisoned with cyanide. The realization that someone was deliberately lacing Tylenol capsules with a deadly poison was nothing short of terrifying. Cyanide, a potent and often deadly chemical, had been used in these capsules to ensure that the victims died quickly and quietly. Cyanide, when ingested, prevents the body from using oxygen, causing rapid organ failure and death. The poison had been slipped into the capsules in a way that made it almost impossible to detect until it was too late. As authorities scrambled to piece together what had happened, it became clear that this was not a random act of violence. This was the work of someone methodical, someone who had a clear intention: to kill as many people as possible by tampering with a widely distributed product. But who would do such a thing and why? The answers were far from clear. In the days that followed, additional victims were found, all of them having taken Tylenol extra-strength capsules from different stores in the Chicago area. By the time the authorities had connected all the dots, 7 people had been killed, and the fear of contaminated Tylenol spread across the nation. The case was now a full-blown public health crisis. The media quickly picked up on the story, and within hours, Tylenol was no longer just a painkiller. It was a symbol of terror. The public was in a state of panic. Was it safe to take Tylenol anymore? How could they know if the medicine they were purchasing was safe? As the investigation intensified, authorities started looking at every angle. Could the poisonings have been committed by an insider, someone with access to the Tylenol capsules during manufacturing or distribution? Or was this the work of a random person who managed to infiltrate retail stores and poison the bottles before they reached customers? The investigation quickly expanded, with the FBI, local law enforcement, and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration joining the hunt for answers. The case was complex, and the more investigators looked into it, the more unsettling the possibilities became. Tylenol, at the time, was one of the most widely used over-the-counter painkillers in the United States. It was available in pharmacies everywhere, and millions of people relied on it for relief from headaches, fevers, and other ailments. The fact that someone could tamper with so many bottles, all without detection, sent shockwaves through the public. Could this happen again? Was it safe to trust any over-the-counter medication? For Johnson & Johnson, the company that made Tylenol, this was a crisis like no other. Their product, once known for its safety and reliability, was now under suspicion. The company's first priority was to ensure the public's safety, and they acted quickly. They issued a nationwide recall of 31 million bottles of Tylenol, worth over $100 million, in an effort to prevent more deaths. But this wasn't just a recall. It was a bold move, a public acknowledgement of the potential dangers that lurked in the very product that millions had trusted for years. Despite the recall, the damage had been done. Trust had been shattered. Tylenol was no longer just a medication. It had become a symbol of fear. People stopped buying the product, and the once popular painkiller became an afterthought as people turned to other medications in search of safety. But the more the investigation continued, the more troubling the situation became. Authorities began to piece together that the poisonings were not the result of a manufacturing error or an accidental mix-up. No, someone had deliberately tampered with the pills. They had placed cyanide into the capsules in such a way that it was undetectable, making it almost impossible for anyone to know that they were consuming something deadly. The question remained: who was behind the Tylenol murders? Who would commit such a cold, calculated act of mass poisoning? The investigation expanded into other areas. Law enforcement looked into possible suspects. Could it be someone with a personal vendetta against Johnson & Johnson? Or was it the work of a larger criminal organization? Could someone have poisoned the Tylenol bottles as part of a larger scheme, perhaps to extort the company or terrorize the public? Or was it simply the work of a lone, twisted individual with no clear motive other than to kill? As the months passed and the investigation continued, the case grew colder. No solid leads emerged, and no arrests were made. The killer or killers remained elusive. Authorities had no way of knowing if the poisonings were a random act or part of a larger, more sinister plot. Despite extensive efforts, the person responsible for the Tylenol murders was never found. But the Tylenol murders left a legacy that would endure for years. The public's fear of poisoned products would lead to sweeping changes in the way medications were packaged and sold. In the wake of the tragedy, new laws were enacted to ensure that all over-the-counter products would be sealed and tamper-proof. The so-called Tylenol Bill was passed, which required manufacturers to implement safety features like shrink wraps, tamper-evident seals, and secure packaging. Though the murderer was never caught, the reforms set in motion in the aftermath of the Tylenol murders forever changed the way products are made, packaged, and sold in the United States. It also left behind a haunting mystery that remains unsolved to this day. 7 people, each one just going about their lives, unaware that a seemingly harmless bottle of Tylenol could be their last purchase. The horror of those deaths lingers in the background, a chilling reminder of how quickly trust can be shattered, and how vulnerable we can all be in a world where even the most innocent-looking things may not be what they seem. To this day, the case remains one of the most infamous unsolved crimes in American history. Some believe the killer was never found because they were a master of deception, someone who managed to cover their tracks so thoroughly that no one could ever identify them. Others believe the answer is still out there, waiting to be uncovered. But no matter what the truth may be, the Tylenol murders will always remain a terrifying chapter in the story of true crime. Thank you for joining us today on The Hidden Truth, True Crime Story. We hope this story has given you a deeper understanding of the horrors surrounding the Tylenol murders. Until next time, stay safe, stay vigilant, and always be aware of the hidden dangers in the world around you.